Imagine 15 of the most sophisticated war machines on the planet, including $100 million Air Force Special Operations, transport planes, and F-15E Strike Eagles, reduced to charred husks in the desert sand in less than 48 hours. Even more absurd is how this catastrophic military failure is being meticulously rebranded by global mainstream media as a heroic Hollywood blockbuster. Welcome back to Mercer Global Brief. I am Daniel Mercer. Today, we are not reading the Pentagon script. We are tearing off the cinematic filter of manufactured victory. When American warplanes fall one after another, are we witnessing a tactical glitch or the structural collapse of a superpower's industrial and information hegemony? Let us first strip away the polished veneer from Washington and look at the brutal reality in the deep desert. In less than 48 hours, the United States military encountered an aerial disaster of epic proportions in the Middle Eastern theater. A so-called rescue mission resulted in 7 high-value aircraft turning into piles of scrap. We are not talking about cheap disposable drones here. The casualty list includes 1 F-15E Strike Eagle, 2 A-10 Warthog attack planes, 2 Black Hawk helicopters, and most shockingly, 2 highly specialized HC-130 Combat King search and rescue tankers. To give you a clear idea of this loss, let us look at the cold financial data. A specialized HC-100 is not just a cargo plane. It is a flying command center packed with cutting-edge electronics, with a price tag easily exceeding $100 million. The entire United States Air Force only has 39 of these custom models in its inventory. Yet, in less than 2 days, these crown jewels of American aviation were essentially handed over like expired grocery items. The hard equipment loss from this disastrous operation alone is conservatively estimated at over $1 billion. And what about the human cost? The Pentagon has remained eerily silent, but basic physics tells us that when billion-dollar war machines are torn to shreds, you do not get a miracle of 0 deaths and 0 injuries unless American pilots are made of liquid metal. Instead of Terminators, we saw a scene of absolute humiliation. Even a pair of Star-Spangled Banner boxers was pulled from the wreckage and paraded through the streets by Iranian personnel as a trophy of war. Does this scene feel familiar? History has a chilling sense of irony. If we go back to 1980, in this same cursed Iranian desert, Operation Eagle Claw, a mission to rescue hostages, ended in a spectacular bloodbath. 8 American servicemen died, and multiple aircraft collided and burned. That desert storm did more than just incinerate helicopters. It incinerated the presidency of Jimmy Carter. Yet, how is Washington responding today? Instead of reflection, they are packaging this as a great rescue, reflecting the American spirit. This is a masterclass in political alchemy, attempting to refine the ashes of $1 billion into the gold of a patriotic myth. But it cannot hide the grim truth. When a superpower starts celebrating its most embarrassing defeats with trumpets and drums, it is not showing muscular strength. It is applying the final layer of makeup to the stiffening corpse of an empire. But what is even more terrifying than the ruins on the battlefield is how those ruins were instantly painted into a Hollywood set. If we include the planes lost in Kuwait over the same 48-hour window, the United States has lost 15 high-value aircraft in this quagmire, including MQ-9 Reaper drones and 4 Little Bird light attack helicopters. Despite this staggering price, Washington's propaganda matrix did not crash. It went into overdrive. From politicians to the online spectators whose spirits are tethered to hegemony, everyone is reciting the same script. They paint a picture of heroic pilots bailing out, hiding in mountains, starving, and climbing 7,000-foot peaks in a 40-hour race against death. Then, they describe rescue teams flying low under the radar in broad daylight, establishing positions deep inside Iran, and bravely blowing up their own C-130s to keep technology from the enemy. Does that sound familiar? It is a popcorn movie script tailor made for Hollywood. They use this cheap individual heroism to farm tears from the public, but has anyone bothered to ask why they conveniently forget that these same forces were just recently bombing civilians and massacring women and children? Why do millions of people instinctively believe this full of holes narrative while ignoring the actual results of the defenders? This brings us to the deepest level of this game, cognitive warfare. Since the Cold War, the United States and its ally Israel have built an invisible iron curtain over global media. Today, a handful of giant media conglomerates control over 90% of the mainstream information flow in the Western world. They possess a power more destructive than a nuclear carrier, the privilege to define reality. This is a systematic brainwashing project. They are experts at using information cocoons to create a global case of Stockholm Syndrome, making ordinary people in the third world sympathize with their own oppressors. The Western propaganda machine acts like a massive geopolitical neural interface, downloading a distorted virtual reality into the minds of the global public day after day. In the theater of modern war, the deadliest weapon is not a hypersonic missile. It is the false narrative that makes the sheep cheer for the butcher. Let us look past the Hollywood filter and examine the hilarious arrogance behind this information hegemony. In Western discourse, the Middle East is always synonymous with backwardness and fanaticism, while America is the lighthouse of civilization. But if you peel back the fog of prejudice, the real demographic and educational data will shatter your perception. You may not know that according to long-term statistics from the World Economic Forum, Iran, which is dismissed by American politicians as uncivilized, produces a number of STEM graduates, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, that consistently ranks in the top 5 globally. In some core engineering fields, they have even left the United States in the dust. Even more silent in Western media is the fact that in Iran's top universities, over 60% of engineering students are women. Is this the report card of a regressive or anti-intellectual society? Now, let us look at the leadership on both sides. Those who blindly trust American propaganda believe in the law of the jungle, and they fundamentally refuse to believe that the third world can produce true strategic wisdom. But the reality is a loud slap in the face. Take, for example, the late Iranian official, Larijani. In Western media, he was smeared as a radical leader, but in reality, he was a dual doctorate holder who was deeply versed in Western philosophy. His mastery of Immanuel Kant was so profound that it commanded respect from top professors in Europe and America. In contrast, if we were to put the leadership of both sides on a scale to weigh their academic literacy, their historical knowledge, and their grasp of the bottom line of human civilization, those Washington politicians whose heads are filled only with votes, financial reports, and defense contractor donations, look like arrogant and desperate illiterates. It reminds me of the late Roman Empire, those Roman nobles, draped in luxury silk and playing power games in the Senate, mocked the barbarians outside the gates while failing to notice that those they despised were quietly mastering advanced metallurgy and preserving the Greek philosophy that Rome had abandoned. True barbarism is not wearing a headscarf in the desert to fight an invader. True barbarism is sitting in a temperature-controlled office in Washington, coldly calculating the profit margin of a massacre. Behind this political show called a rescue lies the deepest fear of an empire that its industrial base is collapsing like a sandcastle. We must face the cold fact that in this era, advanced American military equipment is no longer an industrial product that can be infinitely replicated on an assembly line. It is a luxury item that is expensive and nearly impossible to replace. From the F-35 and the E-3 AWACS to the EC-130H Compass Call, these high-tech myths do not grow on trees. The reality is that America is trapped in a severe industrial hollow-out. Large-scale production lines for warplanes have vanished into the dust of history. According to multiple supply chain reports from the Pentagon in recent years, the United States not only lacks skilled industrial workers, but cannot even achieve self-sufficiency in the raw materials needed for high-end alloys. In this context, the logic of the battlefield has taken a bizarre turn. American equipment is actually more expensive than human life. If they lose a pilot, they can package it as a hero's return in a Hollywood script. But losing over a dozen strategic specialized aircraft that cannot be reproduced in the short term is literally bleeding the empire dry. The signs of this broken myth are everywhere. When a superpower needs to rely on frantic media hype to cover up the loss of its core assets, it acts like a fallen aristocrat selling off family furniture to maintain appearances. They fight so hard to win the cognitive war because they are about to lose in front of the cold reality of the industrial lathe. This is the ultimate logic of modern win-load. As long as the flag of propaganda does not fall, the collapse in reality can be glossed over indefinitely. It does not matter if the person rescued is dead or alive, or how many $100 million Hercules planes were lost, as long as the audience is moved to tears in front of their screens. The battle is considered a win on Washington's ledger. In fact, I am quite willing to see these successful rescues continue, because this fake confidence, fed by a propaganda machine, acts like a hallucinogen for certain decision-making teams, pushing them toward that long-planned landing operation that is destined to become a swamp. After all, the whole world is holding its breath, waiting for the real show to begin. We are standing at the crossroads of a geopolitical shift. The real battlefield is no longer the shifting sands of the Middle East, but your mind when the lies are exposed and the myths are broken. Will this world be a slaughterhouse ruled by the law of the jungle, or a testing ground for those who have awakened? Do not let the algorithm decide your stance. This is Mercer Global Brief. Leave your thoughts below, and I will see you in the next one.